Hey guys, Analog Man here once again for another deck profile, and this is actually the deck profile that I've been actually looking forward to the most. Uh, because as you can tell from my channel name, I loved the character Analog Man and especially Machinedramon. And Machinedramon is technically out in Europe, so I had to get my hands on the cards, so I ended up ordering them. It took a few weeks, about a month actually, because I ordered it in mid-December and I just got it right now as of today. Um, Today was actually, surprisingly, as of this recording, today was the day where they actually decided to announce a delay for Classic Collection to the 21st of January of 2022. So in retrospect, ordering these cards actually made a lot of sense because now I actually have the cards and am able to test them and or get ready for EX1 Classic Collection. And especially with how the delays are going for anybody that's been playing the card game at the moment, the thing is that potentially BT7 I feel like might get delayed. So having this deck already for practice is really good because then I'm not like unprepared for how the meta will be at that point. So anyway, let's just get into the deck profile so I can show you how amazing this deck is. So far in testing, this deck is really funny. I've had moments where, essentially anime moments, where I've actually won because of one security card just pushing it to my turn, and you'll see what card I'm talking about. And Tamer's like this guy, where he actually lets me push it over to my turn as well, and it's actually really bonkers how some of these cards work together. Anyway, let's get into the deck profile now. So for eggs, we're doing 4 Pagumon. I do plan to make a change with this. I want to run a 5th egg, specifically one of the Diaboro line ones, the Suamon, because that one gives a plus DP, especially when there's duplicates. And there are moments in this deck where you will have 2 Machinedramons out, and that will actually make a difference. So that's the only change I have so far for the eggs, but for now it's just 4 Pagumons. For the rookies, we run only a very small amount. We run 4 of the brand new Hagurumon. This card is super bonkers because originally when I was testing this deck, I was not fully aware of how the wording was, especially the actual translations that they would do in English. And the actual translations make this card kind of a little bit more busted than initially thought. I thought this card would essentially let you ditch a level 5 and then draw 2, but in fact, the text actually says that on play, you may trash 1 Digimon card with Machine or Cyborg in its trait in your hand to draw 2. So this card lets you discard anything that is Machine Cyborg. And if you build this deck with just Machines and Cyborgs, you will be able to essentially get that discard 2 off of anything in the deck because everything in this deck is a machine and or cyborg. So you will always get this off when you hard play this. So running 4 of this is a must. This card is crucial to your strategy to discarding, just like how in muskets it's crucial to have Deputymon or Soundbirdmon or Impmon to mill. This guy is your guy that will do it for you. Anyway, then for the other rookies, we run 2 Commandramon of the new BT5 one. This one, of course, all D brigades are cyborgs, so you can run more D brigades, but for me, I'm just running just these specifically because this one is a really cool blocker, and I like evolving him and raising. So very nice, very nice to have in the deck. Then I also run two Haguromons, the original one. This one is also a machine type. If you check the traits for him, he is a machine type, and he is a 2-cost Evo. I've actually managed to use him to set up a decoy. The thing is with this deck, I'm also trying to use the new mechanic that Black has, decoy, because I've actually found that that ability is actually really good, and all of the Digimon that have it on them, especially like Mamemon and Machmon, they're actually very cheap evolution costs for Black. So I've been trying it out, and I've actually been enjoying it a lot because Decoy has actually saved my Machinedramon and other Black Digimon a bunch. So I highly recommend for anybody that's playing a Black deck to try those out because they're actually really good. Machmon is only a 4-cost, and he lets you protect anything on your board. So he is very solid. Anyway, then for the last rookies, we actually have 2 of the original Commandramons as well. So we have essentially the new versions and the old versions, but this one is also a cyborg. So cheap 2 cost as well, so you get the ability to discard through this, and you get to have more rookies to raise to essentially evolve on top of. So right now we're only running about, let's see, 4, 6, 8, about 10 rookies. So this isn't really originally the build actually ran less actually, and I bumped this up by including two more Hagurumon, and in testing it's actually been doing a little bit better with that, because I've actually had games where I would just brick into level 5s and I just couldn't do anything because I never drew any discard cards. So I've actually bumped up the number of discarding cards that will essentially allow you to ditch your level 5s faster and start drawing into your Machinedramons. Anyway, that's all the rookies, 10 rookies so far. For the level 4s, we run a very lean number. Most black Machinedramon deck profiles actually have been kind of weird. I've actually looked into almost every variant of this deck, and they seem to I don't know, I feel like they put too many level 4s into the build when you only need a few to kind of get things going. Honestly, the level 4s are just there to either hard play or just to have something out for the level 5s to evolve on top of to start searching. For me, I honestly I run only 8, and so that's why I run 4 of the new Gardromon. The new Gardromon is actually really powerful. He's slightly weaker than the old one. The original one from BT2, I believe, was 7,000, and this also has the your turn clause of he can't attack, but this one actually isn't a vanilla for once. This guy is actually he actually has an inherent ability, which is when you attack with somebody that's like a level 5, you get to just discard any cyborg or machine just like Hagurumon, and you get to draw 2. So both Agurumon and Gardromon make up for their new decrease in power and cost. Essentially, well, actually, this one's the same cost as the original, but Hagurumon has been increased by 1 because he's just so good with how this deck works. But yeah, this guy is really crucial in the deck because it helps you cycle through and draw. Then for the last level 4s, I'm running actually 4 Machmons. Originally, these guys were actually, I believe they were Tankmons or Nanimons, but I actually like the idea of using Machmon because he's a 4 cost, so you can essentially set up, if you have enough memory, you can set up everything and then just hard play him and give your opponent 4, and you have a decoy, essentially. It's very nice. He does fall victim to, let's say, like if you're playing against green, maybe he might get Nidhogg, but we're not really seeing green as much now in the format, so there's not really that big of an issue. So having this guy out is really good. It actually helps a lot in red matchups, I've noticed, where your opponent will try to like Gaia Force something on your board, and you can just switch the target to this, and it doesn't really matter if he dies because usually I have him evolved on top of a rookie, so Pagumon with Pagumon, so he will trigger, and then I will get to block something and get a draw off of that, which is really nice. But anyway, yeah, we only run these two. These two are very solid. I've seen, as I said, I've seen builds where they run at least maybe 10 to 11 level 4s, but for this build that I have so far, this has worked so far really well. And I've seen them often enough that I don't really have an issue of increasing their numbers. So, yeah. Anyway, now let's get into the level 5s, the main thing of this deck, because this deck is based all around these guys, and you have to know exactly how to play them and or discard which ones, because each one has a different inheritable ability that they will give to Machinedramon when he equips them, like an XYZ monster from Yu-Gi-Oh! Basically. So anyway, we're running. Originally, my ratios were very skewed towards one machine, but I realized that it's actually better to kind of spread it out, because if you focus on just one of the level 5 machines, it will actually break your deck. And Machinedramon, for anybody that doesn't know what he exactly does, when he is summoned, he equips 5 machine types onto him, and to gain back the 5 memory, you have to have 5 unique cyborgs. So you have to be really careful when you summon him, and to make sure that you're actually not misplaying and actually just gaining 4 memory instead of 5. You want to gain the maximum back so that you can push your opponent to like 3 or 4. So anyway, yeah. So for the first level 5, we run 2 of the new Metal Tyrannomons. This guy is really awesome. This guy has generic abilities just exactly like we're running 2 Andromons. and 2 Momimons. These guys are essentially the same card, but just different inherent abilities. So these all cost 7, they all cost 3 to evolve, and they all have 7,000 attack. The one difference, as I said, is the inheritable. So when you Digivolve these guys on top of a level 4, they all will search the top 3 cards, and it will let you add 1 level 6 machine type among them to your hand, and then it will trash the rest. So essentially, the best outcome with these guys is to get a Machinedramon and then ditch 2 level 5s. Then once they're in the trash and or in your hand, then this is where the inherits come in. Metal Tyrannomon, the one thing that you have to be careful about this, I was actually running a specific Metal Greymon from the previous, I think BT1 or BT2 set, where it said that if this Digimon has jamming, you can gain a security +1. But the problem, the fine print on this is that all of these inherits are on your opponent's turn. So you have to be very careful about this. So on opponent's turn, Metal Tyranno gives reboot, this guy gives blocker, and then this guy makes it so that when you swing, you can pop a 5,000 DP Digimon. So basically most blockers and or possibly rookies. So you have to be very careful about how which ones to equip. You cannot equip duplicates if you want the 5 memory, but you can actually equip. I mean, you technically still can do duplicates, but the problem is that you won't get the best benefit out of them. You can stack like multiple blockers like this, but then it's not like you want to be able to maximize on all your level 5s to set up and make your Machinedramon as strong as possible once it goes back to your turn, so that you can essentially swing for game with all your guys. Then we play 2 of the new Megadramon. This guy is really gross, honestly. Like, the fact that on play, he can just delete up to 2 of your Digimon with 3,000 DP, so he helps essentially board control against Rookie Rush, and his inherent is also very good. Because basically when he has a Digimon that has machine in its traits, as the guy that has them in his source, they will automatically gain security +2. Originally, a lot of builds I saw ran Volcanomon from the new BT6, but the problem is that he requires unsuspended Digimon, and your opponent can actually play around this by swinging with everything on their board. So having this as an automatic security plus just because of the traits actually completely overrides that, so that guy essentially becomes obsolete to this. Then we also run 2 of the new Metal Greymon. This one, when attacking, when this Digimon attacks a player, I can delete one of my opponent's Digimon with 4,000 DP or less. So he is also great for board control. And his inherent effect is that basically whenever he's equipped to a machine and or Dragonkin, specifically like Greymon or War Greymon, essentially, they will gain piercing automatically, which is great. This helps Machinedramon swing through for multiple securities, so it is crucial to have this guy in your stack. Sometimes you might not see him, or you might not see this guy, but it's great just having them in the deck to help round it out. Then for the last few level 5s, there are 3 level 5s that we're running for this. We're running 1 Gigadramon. This one is really great because it's treated as a red, and also the fact that it gives your Machinedramon +2,000 on their turn, on the opponent's turn. Then you run the Megadramon, where he's the opposite, where he counts as black, and then he gives 2,000 on your turn. And then we have just one more Megadramon just in case, the black version from the starter deck. This one gives blockers, so occasionally there will be moments where you just don't get Andromon here. Yeah, where you don't get Andromon, so having him as like another guy that will give blocker is really nice. So yeah, that's all level 5s. We're running 4, 6, 8, 10. We're running exactly 13 at the moment. Most builds I've seen only run 12, but I like having that just one extra to help essentially cycle through faster. And with how many I'm running, I actually run, since I run 4 of the Hagurumon and 4 of the new option card that's specific for this deck, it actually helps speed it up a little bit more. So yeah. And then now we only run 1 level 6 Digimon, and if you couldn't tell from what the deck profile is, we run, for level 6, we only run 4. We run Machinedramon because he is the only level 6 you run, and he is the only one that you want to see. I essentially tested, as I said, I tested every single other build, and having a secondary level 6 actually hurts this deck. The only other one that doesn't hurt to summon is Gundramon, but the problem with Gundramon is that he doesn't really do much. He can pop a rookie, maybe a blocker or something. He can't really do much. He has to rely on essentially searching the deck and getting a 7 cost option, which will require you then to run 7 cost options. And I have essentially tried to mix muskets with this deck, and so far I found that it does not work with this deck. You have to run this deck very pure like, either that or you have to run a sort of Mega Zoo kind of weird like blue eggs and blue Vmons essentially for the deck to even function properly. But the pure version like this works probably the best, and I feel like going forward, this should be how people build this, because the other variants have very inconsistent draw power because you have to rely on other things aside from the machines to do it, and it just doesn't really as most machines it just doesn't function properly. But anyway, yeah, that's all level sixes we run. For level sevens, we also just run one. We run one Millenniumon. Originally, the build that I saw that resembled this one ran one Zwart, but I feel that with Zwart, he doesn't have enough staying power because most people would just kill him anyway. With Millenniumon, if you evolve, you get to essentially bounce one of their guys and he can survive and come back and swing for some damage. That's why I like using him, honestly, over Zwart and like Zwart. Well, not Zwart D, but like him and Zwart D are probably my favorite level 7s because they just recur and do so much compared to the other ones that they on like even just one copy, he's worth his weight in value at this point. So I love having him in the deck. Anyway, so that's literally all the Digimon we have in the deck. The rest are essentially tamers and options at this point, which will help you essentially either stall the game out or help push for game. So first, we run 4 of the new option card, Ultimate Connection. As you can see, the artwork is Machinedramon with all the level 5s just arguing with him. But this card is actually really broken because this is essentially how blue decks have Hammer Spark. This is Machinedramon's Hammer Spark. You get to basically play this card for 1 cost and you get to discard a level 5 and you get 2 memory back. So essentially you're like, for example, if you're at 3, you'll pay 1 and then you'll go to 4. So you're getting a +1 memory benefit no matter what, and it helps set up your trash and or hand so that you can start cycling. And not only that is that after you gain the 2 memory, you also get to draw 1. So this with Haguromon essentially helps you just go through the deck super fast and very efficiently, to the point by maybe turn 3 or 4, you should be ready to essentially hard play this Machinedramon down and just start hitting for game. This card is really cool too because so this card's also really broken because in security it actually triggers the main effect, and with how many level 5s you run, are always guaranteed for this to go off. I actually had a match that I was testing with my friend where he actually put himself to 0 and he swung right into this, and I had level 5, and I had also an Izzy and Joe on board. He pushed me to 2 because of this, and then I gained another 2, and because of that I managed to set Machinedramon and start swinging next turn, and that just essentially ruined his whole plan. But yeah, you have to run 4 of this. I was running 3 originally. It does not work because since you're running so many level 5s, you need to see this and Haguromon as soon as possible to get rid of them and start cycling your deck. You have to have 4. Then for some of the removal, I'm running kind of a weird ratio, honestly, because how this deck works, it's very... The space in the deck is very tight, so you have to be very specific about what you need to get rid of. For me, I run 2 ultimate flares. I run 1 Gewalt Swarmer. This one is to take down essentially really big bodies like a Jessamon or a level 6, something like maybe Crania or something that you might encounter against other Black Royal Knight decks maybe. So you have this, and then this one is to kind of help you clear the board, potentially trigger your effects off Pagu or something. So it's very nice to just have maybe the 1 board wipe just in case. Then we also run 1 Onslaught because Onslaught does help. This actually has come up before where it actually clutched me a match because it popped their big level 7, which actually got me a game because the next turn I swung a Machinedramon. Then I run one emergency program shutdown. You're probably asking why I'm running this, because like it seems that this card would be more useful as like duplicates. It doesn't really work as well as you might think, because the thing is that a lot of the decks now at the moment, especially the top tier decks, they run options, but they don't run an abundance. The only one that does is security control. So this card would be the only thing that can shut down their thing. But at the same time, you're most likely going to be dealing with either Jesmon or Agumon or Gabumon. So you need to be prepared specifically for them more than dealing with security controls. So with this at one, I actually in testing I actually like this at one, because security control actually cannot do anything to this deck half the time. Once Machinedramon is down, they basically can't do anything, and they just have to kind of sit there and hope that their security is strong enough to kill him. Which sometimes you're lucky enough, but sometimes you can just detach and just do stuff. I also just realized I forgot to mention how Machinedramon works. Machinedramon is actually really busted, because on play you can just play up to 5 red or black Digimon with Cyborg in their traits with different card numbers, and you can just recover 5. And the fact that all turns, I forgot to mention that he cannot be DP reduced, so yellow can literally not touch him. Chaos Voldarons would do nothing to him. And then also on all turns, when he were to be deleted, just if in any instance that he would be deleted, you can just detach 2 level 5s and just keep him surviving. So with this and Millennium in combination, it makes the deck really hard to get rid of. This guy is almost impossible to get rid of unless you have ultimate flares, and not that many people run it except for black and security control. So they would have to essentially tech this in, or something that de-digivolves, and most of the de-digivolving is limited to black. So unless you're playing a black deck, you're not going to get stuff de-digivolved. So this deck is super consistent and hard to essentially deal with. Anyway, so back to the options. So these are all the options we play. The main focus is to just cycle. That's why I run 4 of these, and the rest are just backups for removal. So for that, now we just have Tamers. We run 2 of the starter deck tie, because this guy is actually really broken in this deck, because giving blocker to Machinedramon through any means that every time he blocks, he gets an extra block. So no matter what, you are always guaranteed maybe 2 to 3 blocks every turn. So and especially if there's 2 of these, like if you have both of these on board, you're guaranteed 4 to 5, and it is amazing. You just essentially, it turns your entire field almost into potential Mechanorimons, which is already a super broken card that I'm not running in this deck, because it actually kind of stops the synergy a little bit, because it doesn't really work well because of its evolution costs and the fact that you have to hard play it to get kind of the best value out of it. But this turning everything else that is a blocker in this deck makes this card really amazing, and the fact that it's only 2 costs, so it's not really a bad thing to just play this, so it's really great. And hitting in security is even better. For the other 2 Tamers, we run 2 Izzy and Joes, because we want to punish our opponent if they try to go wide, and that way they give us more memory to start hard slamming this down. For the last Tamer, we actually run 1 Analog Youth, or Analog Boy as his original name was. This guy is actually a really cool generic broken white Tamer card that just came out in Classic Collection. For those that don't know what it does, on play you can reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 Digimon card among them to your hand, and then you trash the rest. This effect is so generic and so amazing that it's just in this deck it's already super powerful, but in, like, let's say for example like purple muskets, this card is bonkers because it lets them just cycle through their deck as fast as possible. And not only that, is that that's not its only effect. Its secondary effect is that when any of your level 5 or higher Digimon with sources underneath dies, you can tap him and gain a memory and hatch a brand new egg. So essentially, he has the power of Mimi mixed with like those tamers that always give you 1 memory. So he is already broken from the first effect, and then you have this extra effect. This guy is super powerful, and honestly I feel like you have to run at least 1 or 2 in this deck to build up the consistency for it. But yeah, no, that's essentially the whole deck. This is what, like, Machinedramon is a really weird deck, but for anybody that has seen my musket deck profile and how I describe how the the deck plays, it's essentially almost the same exact thing. You're doing the exact same thing like how Beelstar decks do, where you're trying to get this card into your hand. Unlike Beelstar, though, the one sad part is that you cannot recover these from your trash, which really, really sucks. So you have to just draw into this and hope that you don't mill the rest of them. But even then, this deck, no matter what, you will have one or two in your hand, so you're guaranteed to just start swinging and doing damage. But the deck essentially functions. Honestly, I feel like from playtesting, this deck feels more like a purple deck rather than a black deck sometimes because it just mills so much. And there have been multiple times where I've won with maybe like 3 to 4 cards in my deck left, which is crazy because I have never actually played a black deck that actually can draw that fast. So, well, most black decks will get more powerful later on in BT7 and BT8 and EX2, I believe. But for now, this is probably the fastest black deck and probably one of the most consistent ones because for anybody that has tried to, yeah, basically anybody that has tried to make Black Royal Knights, they will tell you that the deck is slightly inconsistent because each build is dependent honestly on the player and their preferences and work towards their style of play. For me, I honestly like this kind of deck more because I like that it's focusing on just one guy and not multiple guys because I feel like when you focus on too many level 6s and trying to get into their strategies, it kind of hurts the deck. And that's the main issue I feel with Black Royal Knights at the moment is that because it runs Alphamon, Crania, and Genkumon, it kind of has an identity issue where it's just trying. It's like either you do this or this or this, and it's not. I feel like it's just not consistent enough. This deck, honestly, I feel that it's as I say, it's the most consistent and solid option for Black going into Classic Collection. And honestly, I would not sleep on this deck because this deck did top a bit in Japan. Not many, but it did. So that means it has potential because in Japan, they only had like this set for maybe what, 4 or 5 weeks, not really long before BT7 came out and hybrids just kind of overran it. But for us here in the TCG, we have the ability of hindsight. So having hindsight, this deck could potentially last all the way towards EX2 because each set, this deck has gotten at least 1 to 2 cards to help boost it. So I feel like this deck will continue to just kind of be in like really low tier 1 here in the TCG. It's not going to be top, but it's going to be there and you're going to have to be ready to deal with this deck because if not, you're going to have a really rough time, especially dealing with Machinedramon and Millennium Mon combining together every time. And with the fact that he can gain so many abilities and your opponent not being able to get rid of him, it's gonna make it like this deck will be a huge threat when they're essentially if you can take them by surprise with this deck sometimes you will be able to get a few wins off of it. And as I said, more support, this deck is going to become stronger and stronger. I actually plan to possibly test maybe Black War Greymon into this deck because I do believe he is a cyborg. Yeah, yeah. He is a cyborg type. So Black War Greymon would work really well in this deck, especially with the new Black War Greymon that actually de-digivolves, and you can actually equip it onto Machinedramon because it allows him to attack any unsuspended Digimon. Whereas like Jessamon, they require a 1 cost option card to let them do it. We get it by default on the next turn, and we can just swing into their strongest guy and kill them. So yeah, as you can tell, I'm super excited to play this deck. Right now, it's not really legal yet. I'm just testing it with friends, but don't sleep on this deck. This deck is amazing. You should honestly check it out. I would honestly for Machinedramons, this is probably the most expensive card in the set. So or of this whole deck. So just I would honestly just like everything is really cheap right now at as of the time of this recording. I don't know if it might shoot up or not, or more people might start playing Machinedramon. I have literally heard nothing about anybody playing Machinedramon aside from myself and maybe like a few other YouTubers. So this deck will be essentially the underdog. I honestly predict that this deck will be like the second D Brigade deck because D Brigade has been kind of coming out of nowhere and just topping random regionals and tournaments. I feel like this deck might be that deck that just kind of comes out of nowhere, just like D Brigade, and it'll just kind of blindside your opponent. So if you want to try this deck, go for it. I honestly like this deck is a 10 out of 10 for me. I mean, well, to be fair, I have a sort of bias, but I honestly say even if you don't like cyborgs and machines, if you're a fan of black decks, this deck is very fun. It's more consistent than almost every other black deck aside from maybe Diaboromon. Diaboromon, yeah, actually that's my bad. I literally at this moment I just remembered about Diaboro. This deck and Diaboro are probably the only decks that I feel like are the most consistent compared to all the other black decks. So highly recommend trying it. Anyway, thanks for watching this literal 30-minute video about essentially me fanboying about Machinedramon. Sorry about that, but I'm just super excited to finally play this deck because I've been waiting for months to do this. Anyway, thank you for watching. I will be doing updated deck profiles of all my previous ones at some point once each new set comes out. Like I know for sure my deck will be including Anabolic Boys, so I'll show you my new updated version. I actually just changed it a little bit, so I'll be posting those later on. And I'm still kind of working on editing all the tournament videos. So because with how the holidays have been, it's been kind of weird. So once the holidays are done, I'm going to start working on those and just going in. So anyway, look forward to seeing those. Thanks for watching. As I say every time, leave a comment. If you have any suggestions and anything for this deck, I want to hear them because I want to make this deck as good as possible. Just like every other deck I've shown on this channel, I want it to be good, and I want it to at least maybe top like my muskets, or at least top in something, honestly, because this deck is honestly my all-time favorite at this point. So anyway, yeah. See you guys next time. Peace out.